Okay, hi everyone. Let's get cracking with our first day of Python coding. Just a bit of admin before we start. First off, you should have followed a link to a Trinket page, which should have brought you to something that looks like this, except I don't think there'll be a code pasted in it. This is just the code from your email, the one we're going to break today. I'm going to type all of my code into this box, and you should too. But one thing I would say is just whenever I add some new code and you want to copy it down, just hit pause in the video and take your own time to type it all in, because typing and listening to me will get irritating quite quickly. So really don't feel like you have to rush through anything. Now, to give yourself a bit of space, just click the expand button and that'll fill your screen nicely. I'm just going to leave this code here for a minute because I'm going to talk about it, but in the moment I'll remove it. So this is the code you had in your email. How does it work? Well, imagine you had the alphabet typed in over here. Each of these lines represents a single letter. So for example, you can see that this line, line number 4, represents the letter B because it has this special symbol, the @ symbol, in this position, which corresponds to B. And you can see that this line corresponds to C because it's underneath the C. So we're going to first write some code that generates codes like this, given any message you like. And then after that, we're going to write a different section of code that will take a message like this and give you the actual English message. Let's write down a message. And let's keep it nice and simple. Let's say our message is, hello, everyone. Nice and simple. And what I want to do is I want to go through this sequence of letters one at a time and figure out what position in the alphabet is it. What position in the alphabet is H, E, L, L, O. And for each one of those letters, I want to print out one of those lines. Remember, one of those lines like this, one of these lines, and place a special symbol, doesn't matter what it is, in this case an @ symbol, corresponding to the letter in the code. So what I'm going to need a copy of the alphabet that I can compare. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in the whole alphabet. There we go. I said before I wanted to go through every single letter in my message and figure out where it occurs in the alphabet. In order to do that in Python, you use what's called a for loop. For. And then you just have to create your own name. We're going to go through everything in the message. Well, what's in a message? Letters. So I'm going to say for letter in message, and at the end of a for loop we put a colon, hold down shift, press the colon button, and press enter. And you'll notice that when we jump down to this line, I'm indented slightly. In Python, that's important. You have to indent anything that's inside a for loop. So make sure you don't end up typing your code in here. You'll get an error. So to get into the indented location, press the tab key, and away you go. So for letter in message, and I'm just going to quickly show you what this does. I'm going to print out letter. Watch this. Now you see, it just goes through every single letter in my message and prints it out. H, E, L, L, O, space, E, and so on. So this is just a way of iterating through everything in the message. I didn't have to, there's nothing special about the word letter. I could use any symbol I like. In this case, I could also just use the letter C, and it understands what I'm talking about. But I'm going to use the word letter. I think it's nice to be kind of clear. For letter in message. Now, I didn't really want to print out my message. I'm trying to turn it into a code. So what I wanted to do was figure out where in the alphabet such a letter occurs. So the first one is H. Where does H occur in the alphabet? And there's actually a really nice feature of Python that lets me do this right away. I'm going to say location in alphabet alphabet equals, and I'm going to say to my alphabet, find the letter I'm currently looking at. Now watch this. I'm going to print this out for you so you can see. Location and alphabet. Let's run that. Now what have we got here? Our message starts with the word hello, and I've got 7, 4, 11, 11, 14. Now let's have a look at the alphabet. H. H is where in the alphabet? A is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. H is the 8th letter in the alphabet, but it gives it number 7. That's because in Python, we count starting with 0. So we actually consider A to be the 0th letter of the alphabet. B is the first, C is the second, D is the third. So you have to get a little bit used to counting from 0, which I know sounds really weird if you've never seen it before, but you will get used to it eventually, I promise. So these numbers are telling us the indices, the locations of each letter. We're saying you're starting with letter number 7, which is H. Then you have letter number 4, which is E. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. And then an 11 and an 11. Those are going to be the L's, and so on and so forth. So that's great. We've already figured out where in the alphabet it is. We now need to turn that knowledge into one of those weird-looking strings that we had. We had these dash, 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 dash things, followed by a special symbol, and then a bunch more dashes. So let's go ahead and figure out that. Get rid of that. Okay. Now, Python has another really handy feature. You can build strings of symbols just by multiplying by numbers. So for example, if I take this number location in alphabet and multiply it by a particular string, in this case, like that, we can actually use this to build up this code we're trying to make. Because you see how if H has index 7, that's going to give that this actually turns it into 7 dashes. And I'm going to show you what I mean by this. I'm going to do print location in alphabet followed by a certain number of dashes and run that. So you see now when I find an H, it creates 7 dashes, which is kind of close to what we had to begin with, right? This isn't the whole thing, so I need to add on a new symbol. After my dashes, I need to put in a special symbol. That's no problem. In Python, that's really easy. I just say, okay, plus whatever special symbol I want to use. We're using an @ symbol. And then what comes after the special symbol? Well, a bit more. A bunch more dashes. How many do I need? Well, there's 26 letters in my alphabet. I've used up a bunch here. I've added on an extra special character. So I'm going to need, let's do the maths on this carefully. I'm going to need 25 minus location in alphabet times, and then that many more dashes. That should be correct. I'm going to take this out of the way while I run the code. See what that gives us. Here we go. So now I've got a nice looking code. I've got 7 followed by this weird line that has a symbol in the 7th location, and then it's padded out to be the correct length. And I want to check that these are lining up correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out the alphabet as well. I'm just going to do print alphabet, and that way I'll have that at the very top of my page, and I can make sure that they're lining up correctly. And you can see that H lines up with that symbol, E lines up, and those L's line up. That's looking great. So I'm going to take away this line, I don't need to know the numbers anymore. Let's run that. And okay, that gives us something that looks quite nice. We've got a slight problem here. Let me just go back actually and put that last line in again. Right? You see how this line is wrong? It's got an extra piece at the end, and it's telling us there's an A there, and the number is -1. This is what the find function gives you if it can't find a particular letter. So let's have a think about what's going on there. We've got the word hello, H-E-L-L-O, and what comes next? Well, after the O, there's a space. So we've just asked the alphabet, this thing, to find where inside itself the space occurs, and there is no space in the alphabet, and so it gives us a -1, which is a junk result that we weren't prepared for, and so now we're printing out -1. We're doing -1 times this, which is nonsense, and that's why we don't have any underscores at the start. So we've got a bit of a problem there, and that needs fixing. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to decide if location in alphabet equals, be careful to put a double equals there. It's tempting to do this. He wants you to double. It's saying if the location is equal to -1, then, and we indent a second time. That's important. Remember to indent. I'm just going to print off an empty line. So an empty line will just be 26 of these underscore characters. Otherwise, I'm going to say else. We'll do what we were just doing. So I'll just tab those in. So now this is saying if the location in the alphabet is a nonsense result, just print an empty line. On the other hand, if the location in the alphabet is anything other than -1, just go ahead and print it out and print out our code line. So let's see if that's fixed the problem. Yeah, that fixed the problem. Now we just end up with an empty line as we wanted to. So that looks great. I'm going to take away the actual location because we don't need that in our code. Let's run that again, and there we are. We've got a nice clean output, and we can see that these symbols are lining up nicely. So let's have a go at playing around with this. Let's change the message and see if we can encode something else. And let's run that. Try something harder. Let's have a look at this. So I've got an empty line, and that's a bit strange. And then I start with the letter R and then Y. So it's lost the letter T. Why has it lost the letter T? Let's have a look at this. Well, it's because I made it a capital letter, and there are no capitals here at all. So we need to do something. We need to say this message needs to be turned completely into lowercase, or completely into uppercase, and then turn the alphabet completely into uppercase before we try and find our letters inside that alphabet. So I'm going to do Python actually gives you a really easy way of doing this. I'm just going to tag on to the end of our message here. I'm just going to tell it, take this and make it lowercase. And so Python reads this and it says, okay, you've given me a string of characters. That's something I know how to handle. Oh, I see. And now you're telling me to run this command on this string. So all strings in Python know how to do this. But whenever you have a string of characters, you can just tell it to lowercase itself. And let's try this and see what happens. There we go. Now the letter T shows up. Now we also have an empty line at the bottom, and you can probably guess what the problem is there. It's because I used an exclamation mark. So we probably should come up with a way of handling that, although I think it's actually quite nice just dropping any punctuation out and leaving it as an empty line. So maybe we'll just leave it there.